Welcome to Kohose Special Needs monthly webcast. This is our first time actually, so we just hope that it turns out beneficial to everyone out there, especially the educators, the parents, and the community at large. So I'll be talking about Kohose Children Development Foundation. Kohose Children Development Foundation is a non-profit organization that is set to help and support children and young adults from age 2 to 18 years with diverse developmental disabilities. So this webcast is actually one of activities that we'll be doing to reach out to the public, educating the public about different conditions, issues, challenges that affect children and young adults in the society. And our whole aim is to simplify learning and provide individualized and equal support to everyone out there, irrespective of your social cultural backgrounds and religious beliefs. So we believe that we're all human beings and we should be treated equally. So there is nothing like Kohose meant for set of people with class. Kohose is for everyone and every child and young adults living with developmental disabilities. So we actually aim to actually help them to bring out the unique greatness in every child and every young adult with disability, because everyone have their gifts, everyone have their strengths and weaknesses, everyone have at least a talent in them when God was creating them. So no one is completely useless and no one has it all. So if you want to know more about Kohose Children Development Foundation, so you can visit our website on kohose.org. On this webcast, we'll be talking about learning disabilities. Yes, understanding learning disabilities. We may not be able to cover everything in this just one webcast, so it's something we will start, then let's see what we're able to cover in this very webcast. So learning disability is actually is a neurological issue that affects children's ability to receive, process, and give feedback to information, which now in turn affects how they learn, how they write, how they read, how do they solve math problems. So you can see that learning learning disability has a lot of things to do with children's ability to read and write. If you have a child in preschool and the child is finding it difficult to learn the letters of the alphabet, no matter how you try to teach it, this child just doesn't get it. It's not that child's fault. It's not that the child is a lodo. I know in the society that we find ourselves, we are quick to label our children. We are quick to give names to people to children, especially who are not as bright as every other children out there. So they are not olodo. So it's just that the way they process and give feedback to information is slightly different from the way a typical child would learn. Yes, so learning disability actually gets in the way of how children receive information, process information, and communicate information. Yeah, and this is what now in turn affects their ability to read, write, and solve math problems. So if you want to know if a child has learning disability, let's say from preschool age, you see that learning alphabet, like I've said earlier, learning letters of the alphabet becomes very difficult. Understanding words becomes very difficult. Rhyming words, connecting sounds, making proper speech sounds becomes difficult. Counting becomes very difficult, and also learning numbers. So even if the child may actually appears to develop speech and language late, but sometimes they use phrases and may not use complete sentences. Yes, and also when they are talking to strangers, somebody that doesn't really know them that much, if they're trying to communicate to them, that stranger may totally not understand what the child is trying to communicate. It's part of the issues that children face. For children with learning disability, it's kind of it's actually a problem that affects how the brain process some kinds of information, and this now children now find it difficult to actually analyze, store, and organize information. So for you to know that a child is having learning disabilities, there are some areas that you need to also look at for. like the information processing skills, the ability to relate informations in reading, writing, and in maths. Also, the ability to use speech and language. Yes, these are also signs. I know I've spoken about this before. Coordination problem, their intelligence and overall thinking and reasoning skills. These are all areas that before you can actually say, oh, a child is having learning disability, these are areas that you need to actually pay attention. Let me just say that not all learning problems are learning disability. Why would I say so? Is because some children are actually slow to developing certain skills. They may not be on the same pace with other children in the environment, in the classroom environment, for instance. But it's not that they have a learning disability. They are just slow in acquiring certain skills at that time of development. So it is not all learning problems that are learning disability. You can have a child who is able to read, but the issue you are having with that child is that that child reads, but that child is not audible while reading. And you find another child who is able to read very well, but that child have no clue to what he or she is reading. And you can find another child who is able to express themselves very well, but when it comes to writing, it becomes a problem. And you find children who are able to write very well, but when it comes to expressing themselves verbally, it becomes another problem. So learning disability takes different shapes, and sometimes it is not all delays that are pinpointed as learning disability. Why I would say that is because learning disability in itself must present itself consistently. You see a child constantly and consistently struggling in a particular area, let's say in learning the letters of the alphabet. If you're teaching a typical child to identify letters of the alphabet, that child may not grasp it immediately. You may have to repeat it 1 or 2, 3 times before they are able to get it. But for a child who is now having issues, having a kind of learning disability in terms of learning the letters of the alphabet, no matter how many times you teach it, this child just doesn't get it. That is when you should start flagging, oh, something is happening with this child. And it's not just has to do with letters, it may be with numbers, learning shapes, the names of shapes, learning colors. You will see a child who is able to tell you names of different shapes without saying them. But when you actually bring a particular shape, this child will start playing guess game with it. It also happens with letter sounds. A child can recite letters of the alphabet A to Z, but when it's time to recognize them individually, you bring the A, the child is unable to respond, and you see the child just naming different things, but meanwhile this child can recite it. So that is why as teachers as well, you can't really say a child knows something if they're only giving you in a particular order. If they're always responding in a particular order, try order means, oh, this child can recite A to Z. Can this child actually recognize the A to Z? And can this child actually write the A to Z? Can this child actually string 2 sounds and make something out of it? Can this child blend? Can this child start? So there are so many things involved in pointing out children with learning disabilities. There are some certain skills you should be looking out for in children, because like I said earlier, not all learning disabilities, learning problems are learning disabilities. Some children are just slow to learning certain skills. For you to now start flagging it that a child has a learning disability in your classroom, like I said, this child must show a consistent behavior pattern in learning in the classroom. A consistent challenge in learning the concept being taught in the classroom. It has to be consistent for a certain period of time before you can actually assume that or conclude that a child has learning disability. Now, how can you say there are some categories that you need to also consider to help you to inform you if that child is actually having learning disability? I've stated them before. You have oral expression, the ability to say what you mean accurately, because you have some children, they know what to say, but they just don't know the right words to put into it to communicate their thoughts out correctly. And also we have listening ability. Listening ability, it has to do with your ability to understand what you hear. One thing is for you to say what you want to say accurately, another thing is for you to even understand what you're hearing, what people say to you. Do you hear it well? Do you understand what they are saying? Sometimes there are some children in the classroom, You will send the child, go shut the door. Sometimes they will go to the opposite direction. Today, what is happening? It's not that they want to disobey you, or they just don't understand what you're saying. Or pick up the pen behind the books. The child may not understand. That's even the instruction itself is complex, and pick up the pen behind it. Does the child understand what is behind? What behind actually means in the first place. So these are things that, especially in preschool age, we need to understand the different children you have in your classroom.